We don't have too many problems. So, yes, my fellow friends, it is that time. And soon we will be kicking off Bat Month. But before we get into Bat Month, a.k.a. June, we've decided to look at the 1966 film Batman the Movie. And I have a rogues gallery of crew members tonight in the spoiler room to help me talk about this film. First off, we have from Parts Unknown, it is Cole Meredith. Hello, Cole.
Good evening, my friends. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Meanwhile, in the farther reaches of Stevens Point, we have the one and only diva of the spoiler room, Dawn. Hello, Dawn.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Glad to have you. And from the bowels of the Fox Valley area, calling from secret location number 254, it is Jason Zulliger. He's back with us. Hello, Jason.
Holy Bat Month, Bat Mark. I'm so excited to be here. It's a good thing I took my bat anti-nausea pill before the show, or I'd be puking all over the place. I'm so excited.
Great to have you. And yes, Bat fans, we are looking at 1966's Batman the Movie. Yes, everyone, I've decided to give a little preamble to Batman, also because this is a film that is a favorite of one of our crew members who happens to be on the crew tonight. And I wanted an excuse to revisit it as well. Though I don't really need an excuse to watch a Batman film, I decided, hey, why not start with the 1966 Batman the Movie, which is based off of the TV series. Here we have the dynamic duo who face off against not one, not two, but four supervillains who plan to hold the whole world at ransom with the help of a secret invention that instantly dehydrates people. Okay, so I remember watching this film when I was a kid in reruns because they actually broke it once the film was out. They actually had it as episodes for a while on the TV show as well, and we'll get into that as well as how they charged how they shot this film. I think was on purpose, but we'll get everybody's initial reactions to this film. And first off, Cole, we'll start with you. Batman the Movie 1966, your initial thoughts with this film?
It's bananas, man. It's completely bananas. I had a really, really good time watching it. I actually just finished it with my family, and they weren't too impressed. Especially our little one, who actually, he loves Batman and Robin. I think that's his favorite one. But he was just like, I'll never forget the one part where they first invent like the dehydration machine, and they're dehydrating those five goons, and he looks at me and he goes, "I know how they did it. They just cut the camera and then put little piles of cat litter there." And I thought, yeah. That sounds accurate. But no, I had a really good time watching it. It's very funny. To me, I love seeing the four villains. I love all four of those villains just running around that submarine, just overacting their asses off, each trying to one-up each other with a signature laugh. And Burgess Meredith or Meredith, depending on who you ask, is great as the Penguin. His laugh makes me laugh every time he does it. And I had a great time with it. The romance stuff with the really cheesy sax and that stuff is great. I mean, that's my favorite part of the portion of the movie. Maybe is his little romance with Miss Kitka about halfway through the film, and Adam West's performance there is awesome. Yes. Yeah, I had a great time. I hadn't seen this since I can't remember when, maybe like 15 or 20 years, something. So
really, wow.
Yeah, it had been a while. I mean, I was always a fan of the TV show. Ever since I was a little kid, it's what got me into the comics. But I don't know. I didn't have access to this movie as much. I think I saw it once as a young teenager, and then once in my mid-20s or something. And just tonight. So it made me smile, and like I said, I really love the four villains just kind of running around in circles, just just overacting their asses. It looks like the veins in their heads are about to just pop in any given take. It's great.
Oh, they were having a lot of fun with this movie. And the TV show, I think they did as well. Now, Jason, you mentioned to me this was your first time viewing this film like ever, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, and I actually don't have a lot of familiarity with the Adam West Batman TV show. For me, Cole, you said the movie brought you into the comics. For me, it was kind of the opposite. And when I obviously I knew about the show, it was pop culture osmosis. You just kind of about the show, and I'd seen stuff, but I don't know that I ever watched it because for me it was at least in my mind when I was smaller, when I was younger, was it was making fun of something that I really,
Mm-hmm.
thought was cool and liked, and I didn't really like that. Now, obviously, I'm older and wiser and can appreciate the camp and the humor and what it's trying to do, and so I enjoyed it very much. The 10-year-old me or the 15-year-old me probably wouldn't have liked it, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, when you're younger like that, you don't realize the tongue is firmly planted in the cheek with not only the movie but the TV series as well. This is,
Well,
it's meant to be like that,
and it's a matter of how you approach the movie and the perspective. It's like, okay, the perspective that I have now is it's a comedy that happens to have Batman and Robin in it,
right.
as opposed to a Batman movie that's trying to be funny or whatever. So when I approach it that way, I can enjoy it, much like I would enjoy Spaceballs, in
Yeah.
comparison to Star Wars or something like that. So it's just yeah, it's good.
It is, and I just love the cast that's in this film, and not only this cast, but it's based off the TV show, which got so popular that you had all these big named actors who wanted to be on this show. Which, if you look at it now, go really Vincent Price, but he was on the TV show as Professor Egghead, and such a great villain. But these four are the iconic ones, not only in the series but in the TV show as well. And I'm going to finally ask the one and only Dawn, because she is the one that I know who is a huge fan of Mr. Adam West and his Batman. Dawn, when you first watched this film, how'd you feel about it?
This Adam West is the only Batman. This is my Batman. Yeah, I grew up on this. As much as I liked the reincarnation of Batman starting in '89, that was a little darker Batman, which I liked. And then from Michael Keaton, it went on. And then when Christopher Nolan reinvented it with reinvented it for The Dark Knight, that got way too dark. The Batman I grew up with was this light, innocent, playful, idealistic, naive hero, that the people's hero. Everybody was just so happy when he came around. He worked with the police. He was an advocate. I mean, he was a Boy Scout.
Horn Dog Boy Scout.
Everything was light and playful.
Horn Dog Boy Scout, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was Boy Scout mom. I know exactly how they are. But yeah, Adam West, he's always been the hero. I mean, always. Eventually he went on to be the big kahuna too.
Yes, he did. Adam West he definitely put his own signature on this character, and He was based a bit more off of the lighter Batman comics. Now, I'm not nearly as versed in the comics. For me, when I got into the comics was for Batman basically was just before or around the time Burton's Batman, which we will be talking about next week. Burton's Batman. And so for me, I liked the darker characters. So when I was a kid, I really liked the cheesy Batman. And then I got older, I was like, yeah. I was kind of like, Jason was saying with his younger self, probably wouldn't liked it too much because it felt like it was making fun. Now, being older and wiser, I have appreciation against for this film even more than what I did when I was young. And it's funny because every character in here gets a moment to really shine in this movie. We actually don't get. Jason, did it surprise to you that we don't really get to the meat of the plot of this movie till like over an hour into the film?
Yeah, it took a little bit to get there, but and it felt a lot like maybe like a padded TV episode, but that was okay because the stuff they were doing was funny, and so I guess I wasn't honestly, I didn't really care what the plot was because I knew it was going to be ridiculous. Sure. So you just don't, I didn't even think about it too much. It was like, as long as I was laughing and enjoying it, I was, which I was, it was, I didn't really pay all that much attention to the plot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I didn't really care, and then it's finally when they started getting into the villain's master plan an hour after the film started, I was like, oh wait, yeah, that's one. Cole, how about you? How'd you feel about it not really getting to the master plan until like a little over an hour into the show, into the movie?
Yeah, yeah, it took a while, but I really don't. I intricate plot details and like the master plan is all just kind of secondary. And not to talk about the '89 film at all, but I remember preparing for karate class one night and some guys next to me talking about how the movie didn't have a plot. And I thought, well, Jesus, I guess if you think about it like that, in terms of A to B to C, I don't know. I always know when I sit down to watch these movies that at some point there's going to be some completely ridiculous plan that I'm not going to want to pay a whole lot of attention to, or the whole thing will fall apart. I'm just glad that they gave the villains a chance to just really ham it up and go hog wild. I would like, I like when there's more there as opposed to less in terms of villains. I don't like when villains are kind of in the background and don't have a whole lot to do. I love the scenes of these guys just going crazy on each other, delivering this ridiculous dialogue and these ridiculous costumes and just all this really going for it, But yeah, their master plan and the meat of the plot, I mean, they're really out of a plot. It's like a bunch of really ridiculous, corny action set pieces, kind of padded by a romance and some weird comedic political statements, especially at the end there, how they leave the world leaders just like ranting in each other's faces. But yeah, you're right. It's a slow going. I mean, in terms of action, it would be ridiculous to complain about this movie. Either you have a good time with it or you don't. But it could have used a little bit more ass kicking right up front, I think.
You don't think him taking on the shark wasn't?
I enjoy that sequence. It's probably the best thing next to the zombie sequence, where the zombie fights the shark. I thought that was great. What a weird way to open the movie, and 15 minutes of battling, and he's finally like, "Hey, Robin, why don't you toss me down the shark repellent?" You might have wanted to ask for that right away.
Make sure it's the shark and not the barracuda or the whale or the manta ray spray. Pick the right one.
He made sure to grab the right one. I forgot how many different sprays they had in the Batcopter, which, as goofy as it is, though, I would say, and Dawn, you were really familiar with the TV series. as well, and I am as well. And I thought, though, this was a good way to kind of introduce you to the world you're about to play in if you haven't watched the TV show. Wouldn't you say this was a good setup with the Batcopter and the shark and the different gadgets named Bat in front of them?
Absolutely. I thought and like Jason and to an extent Cole both mentioned, it did feel like an extended an extended episode, and that whole first hour is really kind of acclimating you to that world and the preposterousness of it and the extremely questionable logic or lack thereof. Which was actually pretty good, because by the time if you had just jumped in the plot, you would have kind of not really, it wouldn't have been nearly as funny if you hadn't had a little bit to acclimate yourself to the characters and just appreciate the caliber of the characters.
Yeah, these characters, I think Jason mentioned it as well as Cole. One of the things that actually I find lacking in many of the modern superhero films, even the good ones, are your villains always seem to be a bit secondary. But in here, your villains almost overshadow Batman. Wouldn't you say, Jason, that your villains here, as great as Adam West and Burt Ward are as Batman and Robin, would you say almost that the villains kind of outshine them?
Well, they certainly have a lot more screen time than in a traditional superhero movie, and yeah, like Cole was saying, they just it's great that the movie does that because the four of them are so good in those roles, so they can just chew up the scenery and spout that ridiculous dialogue and just go on, and it's extremely entertaining. And yeah, I think it was a great choice. And I don't know if the TV shows like that, where they spend a lot of time with the villains. But yeah, I was happy to see that in this movie.
There's, if I remember correctly from the TV show, there's a large balance, or it does kind of lean usually to the villain, because your villain was usually the guest star. So it was a bigger named person than Adam West and Burt Ward were at the time. So it usually kind of leaned more towards the villain because it was the bigger name they got for the show. I mean, these four, though, are the iconic characters. Now, me personally, I'm just going to put a side note in saying I really liked Eartha Kitt as Catwoman. Okay, but Lee Merriweather as Catwoman and Cesar Romero as the Joker, Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, and Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. These four, the movie could have just been them. And the way they get into these characters, Cole, does it surprise you? You've got these really well-versed, very talented actors getting into these parts so well that you forget that they are not the Joker, the Catwoman, the Penguin, and the Riddler.
Absolutely. Both Don and Jason touched on it, but yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. They're given the room to go for it. What you guys were mentioning earlier with how the villains are in the film more, that seems to be a complaint not a complaint, just a note that fans have about every single Batman movie. I mean, we heard that with Nicholson, then we really heard it when Batman Returns came out. Batman isn't in the movie that much. And then, of course, with Nolan's films, I mean, you really started to hear it from the fans. Like, this isn't even, by the time The Dark Knight Rises came out, everybody's like, well, Batman isn't even in it. And I wonder if all of these filmmakers just haven't realized somewhere deep down that, geez, if we make it Batman's movie, it might not be as strong. I mean, maybe, not that there's only so much you can do with the character, but maybe there's only so much you can do with the character in one movie, and then you have to leave room for the next episode. I mean, you can't fire on all cylinders if you want a franchise with a guy in a bat suit who, mumbles a lot, whereas you get these crazy villains. I mean, they can do just about anything, because they're evil and wackadoodle and they don't have any moral guidelines, so they can just do the most interesting stuff. I think that's where all of the Batman movies succeed, really, is in their villains. I guess with the exception of Batman Begins, which didn't do much with the Scarecrow, I would say all of the Batman movies, whether they succeed, there were some great ones, there were some not so great ones, but I think all of them had at least one really memorable villain. And this movie, I think, I told Sunday as soon as the credits rolled, I was like, I want the Blu-ray if it's out there.
It is. It's still out there. I've got the Blu-ray, so.
She just kind of rolled her eyes and she's just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
But yeah, these four villains, the way they are, Dawn, wouldn't you say as well that even in the show, Batman, Cole points out a good point that it seems to be more about the villains. Is that because Batman really isn't maybe as deep of a character as we sometimes think?
It's definitely possible, but Batman relies, I guess, on his villains to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole backstory is based on the tragedies he's faced because of the villains. So they are an integral part of his origin and every aspect of why Batman is Batman. One other note, you had mentioned Eartha Kitt as Catwoman, who's absolutely fantastic, but my favorite Catwoman is still Julie Newmar.
Yeah, it's surprising they didn't actually have her for this one, but
she was actually already tapped out to play in another movie and couldn't.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because she's the iconic one for a lot of people, was Julie Newmar's Catwoman. But all three actresses are fantastic in the role. And it is kind of, even though they bring their own little spin, they all play it very similar. Lee Merriweather just plays this character up so well.
Yowling she did.
The yowling and the purring, and what I liked is, even though you have the Joker and Penguin and the Riddler as really outgoing crazy folks, but she's got a little. I love how Lee plays it because she's got a little bit of her own little dark, crazy side to her Catwoman, which I forgot about, because like when they're fighting or whatever, she's kind of clawing at the air a little bit and has this wild look in her face, like she really wants to scratch someone bad. Jason, what'd you think of Lee Merriweather's Catwoman in here?
I could have watched 2 hours of her as Catwoman. No problem.
What was it about?
And I don't have the bias or the preference to Julie Newmar or the Kit, because I haven't seen much of at all of the show. So for me, she just, I don't know, she was sexy and even just you watching her kind of in the background sometimes doing, and just the way she moved was like she was, wow.
She wasn't bad with that Russian accent either.
Yeah, right. So no, I thought she was great, and really enjoyed her as Catwoman.
Yeah, she really had the purring dominatrix down.
Yeah.
For as much as you could do on TV in 1966.
Right.
Which they did get kind of away with here. I mean, Adam West, he snuck some lines in here, and the way he delivered them, Don, there was a little bit of a double entendre in there, wasn't there?
Little bit? A little bit?
I was being trying to be subtle. Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there?
Yeah, there is a lot. And again, for a more naive time, that's how they had to get it in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he at some points he was almost. We got a train going on.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. There's never a train this type of day. Do you want to give me 5 seconds?
No, it's okay.
It's so crazy. No, I can close the window right now.
It's all right. The train's passing. We'll be all right, Cole. I just found it funny. I'm like, wow, it's a train.
Dude, there's never a train. It's surrealistic, to be honest. But I am in the city now, weird.
Yeah, that's true. But Adam West, the way he played that, it borderline lecherous, would you say, Don, at points, or just passionate?
I don't think he crosses over quite into lecherous, but he does toe the line at creepy.
Yeah.
He toes that line. I don't think he crosses quite over into lech, but he does come close.
The way he says international relations is
Yeah.
Yeah, the scenes with Kitka are just, I'm like watching it going, wow, I didn't pick up on this when I was younger, but now I'm watching this going, holy crap. Wow, they're really sneaking in a lot of stuff in here. So yeah, the Catwoman is awesome in here. I mean, all these villains are, Cesar Romero as the Joker. You can
they just put that white makeup right over his stash.
Right over the mustache.
You don't have to shave, Caesar. We'll just put it right over your stash.
I thought that was kind of fitting though, but
it really kind of is. I mean,
yeah.
It really is.
It is totally. It just struck me as funny. I'm not sure why. It just in the old days you couldn't even really see it. I'm in like the theater back in '66. I'm sure it didn't pop out as much as it does in HD on Netflix right now.
Well, they pretty much have the same production value, which surprises me in this film as they do on the TV show. The TV show actually had a high production value, all things considering. So this looked a lot, that same quality. But as far as his makeup and his outfits go, I thought he really captured that old school Joker spirit. And it relates a little to you can see where this influence comes in later on in the film we'll talk about next week, but he really put his own signature on the Joker character, but I think also he may have affected how they wrote that character after he portrayed it. Jason, would you say that maybe Cesar Romero's portrayal of the Joker may have had an effect on the way the Joker was written afterwards?
I think probably. I think that happens a lot. You start out with some ideas, and a really good actor is going to take those and make it his own. And I think the writers will respond to that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've always loved Cesar Romero's Joker in any iteration, either in the movie or the TV show. He really makes it a fun character. But Don, he does have a little bit of a dark side in him as well, even though, I mean, this is a campy 66. He does play it a little dark occasionally, doesn't he?
He does. He's definitely a little more violent than the other villains, which is really kind of it's really kind of good, because I think the balance between, especially the way the actors all played their balance, they kind of held him back from going all hog wild with his darkness, and kept it kind of significantly lighter.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. I think all four of these have similar characteristics, but they're not the same, which is great, which I loved. Cole, how about you with Cesar Romero's Joker?
Massive fan. Always have been. Before the '89 movie even came out, I had I still have the pin. It's like a big fat pin with him on it. Just grinning his ass off. Very, very loyal translation to the comics, despite whatever tone they decided to go with on the show itself. Very much what is in a lot of the comics that I personally have anyway. And, I wasn't, as a kid, I was the Burton's movie came out in like '89, I would have been like 10. But even by that point, I was pretty experienced movie watcher for that age. And, I thought, no way Nicholson is going to, I knew who Nicholson was, knew his work. I'm like, no way is he going to outdo Caesar. No way. And I like what he did, but Caesar's got a special place in my heart. I really like his portrayal. You can just tell, in a different production with a different director and some different people around him pulling the strings. I think he could have delivered a pretty terrifying performance.
Well, yeah, I think so too. I think his Joker, you could lift his Joker character out and put it in any of the other Batman films that have had the Joker in it, and with just a slight twist of a change, not much, he would fit right in. It was like that's how well Caesar played the character. But Ollie Burgess Meredith is the Penguin. Dawn, the way he talks with that. I mean, when I read the comic, I heard Burgess Meredith talk.
Yep.
How about you with Burgess and his Penguin portrayal?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, this is my Batman. So they all set the bar for all of these characters. So Burgess Meredith, I mean, that was one of my first experiences with Burgess Meredith was watching this.
Sure.
On the TV show. So transferring his acting from this to other things like Clash of the Titans or the Rocky movies.
You still saw him as the Penguin.
Yeah, I still saw him as the Penguin. Not gonna lie, but not in a bad way.
No, not at all. I mean, it's because he's got that distinct voice. I mean,
yep.
And that voice, that was my first introduction to Burgess Meredith, was as the Penguin. I wasn't versed in classic films at that time because I was a kid when I watched it, and I loved his Penguin. But that voice, I always associated it with the Penguin. Jason,
and that laugh,
oh my god, oh my god, it's like, wow, that's just awesome. I could watch him do that all day. Jason, how'd you feel about the Penguin in this and Burgess's character? You think it was pretty true?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I did like the way he played. I mean, he's a great actor, and see him just hamming it up and absolutely, getting into that character 100%. And it was really cool. And even just a little bit, just because I noted it when I was in my notes, the bits of humanity they throw in there too. So when they're sweeping up the guinea pigs, and he says, "Careful, careful! Wah, wah. Every one of them has a mother."
Yeah,
and he's talking about, and it's, I just thought that was a cool little thing to put in there. And anyway,
yeah, it was there's so much, even though they're all four crazy in their own way. I just love the distinction between each of these characters to where they never felt like they felt similar, but they never felt like they were replicating. They were definitely their own character, which, when you get a group of anything, either superheroes or villains like this, they can start to feel the same a little bit. But in here, yeah, they always kept their own identity. What?
Oh, how about the bookshelves? Everybody had their own set of bookshelves.
Oh yeah.
To really give them a space and to really show, okay, the Riddler has a bookshelf of books, and you're supposed to be thinking of his brains and how intelligent he is. And the Joker had all of his gadgets and whatnot. And he's kind of the inventor and the clever one, quick-witted, kind of physical. And then the Penguin, he had a fish.
It was penguin food, right? Or didn't it? Wasn't it labeled?
Yeah, the label
penguin
said
food.
The label said penguin food.
Yes.
So what is up in this world that everything is labeled? Like everything is labeled.
My theory is
oh
that
shit! I wouldn't have known that was the bat ladder if it didn't have bat ladder on it.
Yeah, I decided that every single person in that universe has OCD. I think it's a requirement for living in that universe.
At least Batman has it, because the Batcave has everything that's bad.
The bat changing, the bat uniform changing lever, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
the bat retinal scanner analysis machine, and everything had bat in front of it. I love that.
Oh, I kind of speaking of that, everything labeled in the Batcave. One of the quotes I wrote down was the Penguin's asking for something to drink, and Batman's like, over there, the drinking water dispenser is clearly marked.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yes, everything is clearly marked.
Yeah, light and heavy water.
Yeah, well, little did he know that using heavy water that we use to help cool our atomic reactor would cause an unstable chemical reaction in the fully restored. I'm like, holy crap, Batman. Which, Cole, out of all the Batman we have had over the years since this Batman, on screen, outside of, I would say, the animated Batman, this is the most detective Batman I think we've had put to screen.
Yeah, actually it is. I was hoping you were going to mention that, or somebody was, because that's very much true. And it's is he ever once mentioned as a detective in anything from Burton to the end of Nolan? I mean, I don't think so. Nolan does a little bit in The Dark Knight where he's like examining the bullet he pulls out of the wall. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was kind of trying for it a little bit there, but the world's best detective, and at the end of The Dark Knight Rises, he doesn't even know who Talia Shire is. I mean, Batman would have known, Yeah. So I nothing against. I love The Dark Knight Rises. I love. I'm one of the few people who holds that movie near and dear. But, anyways, you're right. This movie, this is a detective Batman, even as ridiculous as some of the stuff.
Fully deputized agent of the law.
Yes. They are fully deputized agents of the law, him and Robin.
I love when he's like speaking with the press. I'm just like, oh man.
Oh God, that was an awesome scene.
It was so good, especially in light of current times. Not to get off on a tangent.
He's explaining the exploding shark and the disappearing, and then everybody goes away and goes, "Good thing they didn't know that it was a fake, ship. Otherwise, we'd cause mass panic." And I just loved how they had it where, he was a detective, but it didn't take much for him to deduce everything. Yeah, it's like they'd find a feather and like a light pole, and he'd go, "Yes, this means that they're at the dock where there's a lot of birds." I loved how he was detective in this and how he had an answer like with just a couple sentences or just little pieces of evidence. Jason, wouldn't you say this is probably one of our most detective Batman to put to screen?
Well, yeah, I mean, not necessarily, fully real world logic type of detective.
Well,
but,
no,
I mean, these magical leaps in, in logic. But hey, he's correct. So that's great. But no, I think that was a really good point. I think that Cole first made was that, or and you maybe mentioned it, Mark, was just the whole detective thing, and that he is. I mean, his first appearance was in Detective Comics. He's the world's greatest detective, and none of the movies really give that any justice. And a lot of the comics don't play it up much.
Yeah.
Well, some do, some don't over time. But yeah, I mean, you'd have to say that this is the most detective Batman.
Which leads me to the last villain, and the reason I wanted to go first talking about him being a detective is because it plays an important role with the last villain we didn't cover, and probably even I love Cesar Romero, but there is just such a wonderful spirit with Frank Gorshin's The Riddler. Dawn, his Riddler. How do you feel about that?
I love the way Frank Gorshin portrayed the Riddler. He's quick. He comes across as extremely manic and compulsive, and it doesn't matter if he knows he's not supposed to do it. He has to get those riddles out. He has a fantastic quote that I didn't write down, but it was. I hope somebody else did. It was when they're in the submarine and they're he's going off to send up another riddle, and he's like, it is my paradise, to be the bane of Batman. It is everything I live for.
Yes.
Heaven, and all that. And I wish I would have written the whole quote down, and I didn't. But that piece of mania and that quote really exemplifies what the Riddler is and why he does it. And it's beyond. It's an insanity. It is his insanity, and he is a slave to it. And Frank Gorshin just plays that absolutely perfectly.
He does. I mean, he's got that great laugh with it too. But I love his portrayal of the Riddler. It's probably one of my favorite portrayals. Jason, how about you and the Riddler? What'd you think of Frank Gorshin?
Yeah, I was gonna try to find that quote real quick. I didn't write it down, but as soon as you said, "Oh, I'm thinking of a quote," I knew exactly what you were gonna say, because it really is a great quote, and his Riddler is very different from the Joker. Maybe superficially, sometimes they laugh and kind of manically and things like that, but other than that, they're very different characters and very different motivations, and I do. I wouldn't say he's my favorite of the characters, but I absolutely do enjoy Gorshin's portrayal of the Riddler. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Cole, would you agree? Did you enjoy his Riddler?
Oh, absolutely. Hard for me to add to what Don and Jason said, but I agree. The performance is amazing. Self-correction for our listeners. I mentioned The Dark Knight Rises and Talia Shire earlier. I meant Talia al Ghul.
Yes.
Talia Shire is the actress from Rocky. I think we were talking about Burgess Meredith, and I got a little confused. But no, yeah, I love his performance as the Riddler. I could tell at certain points him and Caesar were trying to upstage each other a tad. I don't think that their characters ever got, too similar, but I do get a feeling those guys are really just going at it. And Burgess had his own thing going on. I think Burgess was entirely in his own little world, which is fitting because he seemed to be more or less the leader of this little, tribe of maniacs. It was his boat, and he seemed to be calling the shots, and but yeah, I love all everybody. All the villains in this film are great. I actually think it could have used a fifth villain. I mean, Jesus, throw Vincent Price in there or something,
Oh, that would have been
great. Yeah, it was great.
Have Egghead in there, your Professor Egghead.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad you mentioned Burgess and Gorshin, because not Burgess, Caesar and Gorshin really have a great moment. You guys talk about how he played it to where he had to get these riddles out, which we'll get to in a minute. But he had to get them. Well, there's a point where they're sending a message to the United World Council, to the world nations, asking for 1 billion, which back in '66, that was a hell of a lot of money. $1 billion from each country that of the representatives who they dehydrated and kidnapped. And there's a moment where like every single one of the villains tells them, don't make it a riddle, make it a clear message. There's a scene where Gorshin and Caesar Romero, they're face to face, and he says, make it a clear message. And there's a beat. There's like 3 beats there where it's just them staring at each other, and then they both bust out at the same time in their maniacal laugh. And I loved that scene so much, because I'm just like, this is what happens when you get really talented folks into these characters and just giving it their all, which is what they're doing. They're having fun.
Absolutely.
I always got the impression that everybody in this film, even the smaller characters, from our Commissioner Gordon to Chief O'Hara, everybody, Alan Napier's Alfred. Oh, such a great character. And even though they don't get a lot of screen time, they seem to be having fun too. And I think what people miss about the movie and the show is this: they were very aware of what they were making, and I think people miss that point sometimes. Wouldn't you say, Dawn? Is the fact that this show was very aware that they were campy and they were over the top, and I think people, when they watch it, sometimes forget that.
I think so too, and I think part of it is in throughout the series, you have the on-screen, very visible comic book traditional Batman, kapow, and the little stars and the bam and the oof, and you don't get that until like the last 15 minutes of the movie. You don't really have a lot of fisticuffs throughout the movie until the very last 15 minutes, and that was a thing that happened really in the TV show. The kapows were left to the end, but I think in this movie, the absence of those moments on screen, kind of special effects, cartoonish special effects, that may be
because they had used film instead of.
It could be, but I think it also kind of took away from the movie. I think it would have added more to have some of that and brought everybody back to the, oh yeah, this is supposed to be more fun and just childish, and I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just crazy.
No, it surprised me too that they didn't really have the pow and zoom at the end, but I think they were trying to leave that as a choice to say, oh hey, this is the really climactic battle, and that's why it was getting the pow and the oof and the in that wonderful battle on top of the sploosh on the pre-atomic submarine, which they made sure to emphasize about 5 or 6 times. It's pre-atomic. I'm like, wow. Which they get a political statement in there about the Pentagon, which I totally forgot about. Cole, how about you? The little scene with the Pentagon and the guy playing the tiddlywigs. I mean,
I love that stuff. I mean, you guys know me. I love that shit. That's great. The more of that, the better. They open up, and in the Pentagon, they're playing like a board game, and just completely oblivious. And geez, Batman, do you think I did anything wrong? It's, well, you think?
And the way Adam West tells him that too.
Yeah, totally. I can't remember the exact piece of dialogue, but it's essentially,
I got it.
Yeah.
Hang on. Disposing of pre-atomic submarines to persons who don't even leave their full addresses? Good day, Admiral.
Yeah. I know, right? It's just
fantastic.
There is definitely a feeling of there's definitely undertones of not a lot of respect towards big government in this in general.
No.
I mean, they really some slams. Local government and the police, oh yeah, support those. Those are the guys you support. But big government, oh, there's nothing good being said there.
Yeah, that's very true, Don.
It surprised me to have a political statement like that in the middle of this, campy 60s movie based off of a campy TV show, and all of a sudden they have this scene with the Pentagon. And Jason, did it surprise you a little bit? You have a little bit of a political statement within this campy TV movie?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of surprise, just given that I maybe kind of made the assumption, maybe false assumption that wouldn't have something like that in there. But I mean, obviously comedy addresses is a great way to address and make statements on a lot of different things. So I guess it wasn't all that surprising.
Yeah. And though they did say support your local, he made it quite clear that you should support your local police officers, and that Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara weren't exactly the most inept, I should say adept police officers either, though. They really kind of just left it up to Batman.
Yeah, well, so did everybody else.
So did everybody else, apparently.
Yeah.
What? Oh, you were going to say...
Oh no, I was just gonna go on with the political theme.
Yeah.
And we're hitting at the end of the movie. And as Scott would say, this is the spoiler room. So at the towards the end, when our favorite villains are finally to the point where they're going to execute their master plan, and the United World Council, they break into the United World Council building, and they're about to dehydrate everybody with their whiskey dehydrator. I thought quite the slam on politicians, that all the politicians are sitting around their table arguing with each other, completely oblivious that the world's largest villains have just walked into the building with this very sinister looking device. And even as they're dehydrating each one, kapow, 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 they continue arguing.
Yes. Well, and Batman, even at the end of the film, puts in that bit of wit and sarcasm that his character has throughout the TV series and definitely throughout this movie, going, was it something about this is the world's best hope? But, the way he delivers this or whatever is just like, yeah.
Well, I think he was kind of saying that because after they were all after the what was his name, the guy that was kidnapped.
Oh, the Commodore.
Yes, the Commodore. After the Commodore tripped and then sneezed on all the dust and mixed all of the dehydrated world leader bits together, and after Batman and Robin had sorted them out and rehydrated them, they didn't go back together quite right.
Well, you had Robin, who we'll talk about just a little bit here in a minute. You had Robin sitting here going, Batman, don't you think that it might help things if we kind of mixed a little bit of each of their DNA with everybody else? And Batman's like, no, we can't play God, basically. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, we're making another statement in here about
uh-huh.
There's a lot of statements. There's even one about alcoholism, and I mean, little subtle statements thrown in here.
Lots of judgment.
Not so subtle. I said subtle.
Yeah. Lots of judgment in this.
Yeah, Robin he served as, and I love Burt Ward and how he played Robin. He was such a perfect counterpoint to Batman because he was the knee-jerk guy in this. If you think about it, he was the emotional knee-jerk person or representation of that. He mentions drinking and he immediately makes a judgment about alcoholics, and Batman has to set him straight.
Yes.
Don, wouldn't you say that Robin in a lot of ways was the knee-jerk reaction and Batman was the voice of reason more?
Absolutely. The scene you mentioned where the bomb scene.
The bomb scene.
Such a miserable scene. Seriously, I counted. It's like 2.5, 3 minutes that he's running around with that bomb, trying to save everything from the people in the bar to a bunch of baby ducks.
It goes from funny to like going on way too long, then back to funny again. Because it's just going on forever.
Well, he drops that line. He drops that line too of sometimes
sometimes there's just no good place to throw a bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, so that because Robin made the comment about you saved all those drunks in there, and Batman's like, just because they're drinkers doesn't mean they're not human too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild how you got Batman. I mean, who got Robin, who is kind of the voice of the general public, you think at times, or is the judgmental folks. I'm looking at this going, yeah, this is kind of like Robin is like Twitter.
Yep.
Robin is like Twitter.
But in some instances, Batman also comes off as a little condescending.
Oh, very condescending. Oh, Batman, because he knows it all. You know, he's he,
It's the only explanation.
It's the only explanation, which I want to get to everyone here. First, though, before we get to everyone's choice of their favorite lines or whatnot, I just have to say where you get this bit of condescending going on, even between Batman and Robin and the rest of the characters in here, are when you're dealing with the Riddler's riddles. Jason, since this was the first time you were introduced to this world and this Riddler, yeah, you knew the answers to all these questions, right?
Oh my God, it was crazy. I was like, real. When they're doing it with the commissioner and the police, the Irish police guy, and they're like, and they're going through the first one, and they say the answer, and they're, oh yeah, obviously, and then what's about the sparrow in the tree with the machine gun or something was the answer, and then the commissioner's like, oh yeah, obviously, right, yeah, that's it. It's like, that's what, and then you've got these two answers, and then Batman puts them together and comes up with this.
What kind of a creature would gobble up a burdened tree?
A cat.
A cat.
The plainest warning.
But
it was just crazy.
Yeah, it was funny. It every time they figured out those riddles they're talking about, it was funny.
That's my favorite riddle. What weighs 6 ounces, sits in a tree, and is very dangerous? And Robin says this like so matter-of-factly, like, you know, of course this is the answer. A sparrow with a machine gun. And I just look at it going, what? How do you draw that logic? Or my other favorite, Cole, what has yellow skin and rights? And Robin immediately says, do you remember the answer?
I not off the top.
A ballpoint banana.
Yes.
Of course, Cole. That was so obvious.
I'm sorry.
You didn't get that.
And then Don, what people are always in a hurry?
Russian people.
Russian.
That one actually makes sense, though.
Right, but not what they come to the conclusion after that, which is Russian.
God, no.
Ballpoint pen. Miss Kitka. Miss Kitka's in danger. I'm just like...
Yeah, it actually went a little more convoluted than that.
Yeah.
It went, someone Russian is going to slip on a banana peel and break their neck. It's the only possible meaning.
Well, who's right? Miss Kitka. Yes, that's right, Robin. Miss Kitka's, she's in danger. I'm just like, how do you go from a ballpoint banana to Miss Kitka's in trouble? That's why he's such the great detective, I guess.
Uh-huh.
It must be. None of that stuff connects. None of it. And there's a lot of scenes, a few at least scenes like that in the movie where there's some weird telepathic connection going on between people. But
yeah, well, especially between Batman and Robin. I mean, Robin, you know, he grows through this film because he starts catching on quicker with the answers to the Riddler's riddles. You know, you know, like what goes up white and comes down yellow and white? An egg. And how do you divide 17 apples among 16 people, Don?
Applesauce.
Yes. Just like, what? Oh,
my fiance got up and opened a beer at that point. Done.
That is the appropriate response.
That is completely an appropriate response. So we've touched on the riddles and these characters and that, and the script for this is crazy. And so I asked my crew members here tonight to kind of bring their either favorite quote or moment in the film. And we may have already touched on it, but let's go down anyway and get that if you have any. Cole, did you have a particular quote or moment in this film that you just loved?
I mean, yeah, I did. We've already been through most of them. The bomb scene and the whole, God, it's not a good day to throw this bomb away, or whatever the exact line was. That scene is bonkers, dude. If that scene is bonkers. I know we touched on it, but it's bonkers. I also like There's just certain things that strike me funny. Like Robin says something to the effect of, "Are you sure you didn't hit your head too hard in that fight?" Oh no, I'm sure, Robin. Here, take this pill. It's like there's no context. Just
Well, and Robin just takes it too. Robin doesn't
takes it. Yeah, just swallows it right away, man. And in terms of memorable quotes, anything delivered by Adam West in the romantic scene with Catwoman is utter gold.
Where he quotes Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, where he quotes Poe. Oh my God.
Because when you think romance, you think Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, yes, especially. Oh my gosh. And just the framing and how they like press their heads together, and then she's peeking at him out of one eye, and then she has the little cat beacon she puts down, and its eyes light up. All that stuff is wonderful. If this movie isn't your cup of tea, that's fine, but you've got to watch the middle section of this movie. Seriously, it's on Netflix right now. Go to the part where they go out on the date and just watch it. It's fantastic. Also, honestly, in terms of like a favorite quote, I think the opening title cards, which are more than a little ironic, but also kind of cool. I think just what it is to be a hero and a lover of all things, and then the side note. Oh, sorry if we left out any lovers. I thought that was just kind of cute and interesting. An interesting way to that more than anything sets the tone. I mean. Maybe even more than the fight with the ridiculous shark. That scene. No, but I love that little opening with the tie. I always like stuff like that.
Sure.
Frankenstein has something like that. A guy walks out, tells you don't be too scared, and hole in the wall head shearer come out. I love openings like that. So yeah, I mean, I could go on forever about. One more. The penguin. Shut up, you feline floozy. I thought that was. It's hard to be if you're not Burgess Meredith in the moment with like the long cigarette thing. It's hard to.
Yeah, he had a way to deliver those lines that only he could. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason, how about you? Did you have a favorite moment or line or two?
Well, I've got 4 pages of notes, and they're just packed with things that I was just were cool noted. But I want a couple things. First, I want to get the quote that Dawn mentioned before.
Thank you.
So the Joker says, "Suppose Penguin did fail. All the more reason not to send up your stupid clues." And the Riddler says, "Oh, but I must. I must. Outwitting Batman is my sole delight, my heaven on earth, my very paradise." And he delivers it much better than I did. But it's an awesome quote.
It is. Thank you for looking that up.
And I do, Cole, you bringing up the opening. I thought I'm glad you did, because that opening struck me. First, I really like how they did it with the spotlights and the bright colors, the single colors, and then those cards, the quotes were awesome. And I wrote one of them down, and basically it said, "To lovers of adventure, lovers of pure escapism, lovers of unadulterated entertainment, lovers of the ridiculous and the bizarre, to fun lovers everywhere, this picture is respectfully dedicated." I mean, that totally sums up the movie and sums up how you should go into it. And I just thought it was absolutely perfect way but I had written it down, so I wanted to I could go on and on, but there's one other one. It's a pretty quick one, but it managed to be poetic and ridiculous at the same time. And it's when Bruce Wayne and Kit are kidnapped or whatever, and Bruce Wayne says, "This nasty soup we're in is largely of my own brewing." I just thought that was such an odd line, kind of poetic, but just ridiculous. It's like, what? What did you just say? And I got pages, but it's full. That's the thing about this movie. It's just full of moments and lines and things like that. While it's I think very padded, it's still enjoyable all the way through.
Yeah, I agree. And Dawn, how about you? I know you're a fan and you took notes as well, and you all took extensive notes. So I'm sure we've got more here to even talk about. But did you have a favorite quote or some favorite moment or two in there? Or?
The two that I pulled out for this, simply because they were preposterous, and that's one of the things that I enjoy about this movie is the language. The language is so preposterous and unlikely, and there's a flippant excuse, reason, or logical leap for everything. And the first one is the first one is, again, when Kitka and Bruce are they're captured and they're kind of together in that room, and he says, "I have a transmitter on my upper left arm. If you could just turn it on." And she's like, "Well, that's really unusual." And he's like, "Capitalists like myself, who carry large sums of money, often have such safety contrivances." Only if you're insane.
Yeah, I wrote that one down too. Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So that was the first one, and it's just like, okay, so you have an excuse for everything. Sure you do. And then the other one, just because it was, again, completely preposterous and completely mocking the entire preposterousness of everything. When they were after they'd crash landed the Batcopter at the foam rubber wholesale convention, Robin says, dumb luck landing right on top of a bed of foam rubber. And Batman says, "Yes, Robin, I'd say the odds against it would make even the most reckless gambler cringe. True, I did think I spotted it out of the corner of my eye."
Such a pompous ass.
Uh-huh. But yeah, just self-mocking.
Yes. Oh, definitely. And I've got so many as well, and wow, you guys astound me with the amount of notes you take. But this is actually a dense film. There's a lot that happens in this movie, in all honesty. A couple of my favorites. One that surprised me. I shouldn't say favorite, but it surprised me. Near the end with the fight on the submarine, Catwoman throws her cat at Batman. And Batman proceeds to fight while holding the cat.
Oh my god, dude.
And then, and folks, this is it's the way he delivers it and everything. It's like it's meant for the adults.
Say it.
He puts the cat on this little raft and goes, "Bon voyage, pussy." And I'm just like, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, yes, I know that's what you can call a cat, but the way the context and the way Batman has been throughout the whole movie, I'm like, holy shit, they got away with that. Oh my god.
Wow.
I knew the host would bring that up. I had it written down, but I thought, no.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, I just it just struck me. I'm like, wait, what? Did he just actually say that? And there are so many great quotable moments in here, but let's not forget that Robin gets his signature holies in here, and
God.
we have Holy Merlin the Magician, Holy Long John Silver, Holy Glue Pot, which I'm still like, oh, my favorite is still, they're in the Bat Boat, and they're going out to search for Penguin's submarine the first time, and they launch a missile, and he goes, "Holy Polaris!"
Yeah.
And it says Polaris missile on the side, and I'm just like, oh my god. Polaris. But you've got Holy Demolition, Holy Halloween, Holy Heart Attack, Holy Captain Nemo, Holy Bikini, and Holy Heartbreak, Batman.
I think you forgot Holy Nightmare. Doesn't he say that?
Holy Nightmare,
too,
yes. You're right. I did forget Holy Nightmare. But I mean, wow, it's just like... Burt Ward, like half his dialogue is nothing but holy, insert some kind of description for the situation. That really is just, it makes it so much fun to have him opposite Adam West's Batman, who I would say if Adam West's Batman got in a conversation with Captain Kirk.
Oh, you stole my thunder. You stole my thunder.
Everybody saw it. I love you all because you all saw that.
I had the same thought, and I had this thought driving home today. I was thinking about the movie, and I'm going, if Adam West's Batman and Captain Kirk had a conversation, that'd be the longest conversation in history. Which also came out in 1966, coincidentally. Don, does he have a bit of? Did Kirk rip off Adam West?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But because Batman the movie came out like after the first season of Batman the series, so I don't think Will Shatner had a whole lot of time to be that influenced by a television show like this. Honestly, I just think I'm of the theory that it was just a stylistic delivery of the time.
Sure.
Kind of like that whole Boston kind of teeth together delivery that a lot of the Cary Grant and 1950s movies had.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I think it was a stylistic delivery at the time, and the two that really stuck were Adam West's Batman and Kirk.
Jason,
yeah.
Jason, you said you came to the same conclusion.
Well, I was going to ask a question to the group: who's got better line delivery, Adam West or William Shatner?
Wow. That's a good question, Cole. Let's go with that question, Cole.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Who's got better line delivery, Adam West or Captain Kirk? William Shatner.
Fuck. Do you know how many Trekkies I have in my life? My fiance is a Trekkie, man. Half my actors are Trekkies. Adam West, without a doubt. Adam West. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, Don, how about you?
God. Damn. I don't know.
I love it.
Imagine I don't.
You can't make the call.
They're both equally awesome.
Yes.
They are. They are awesome.
It would be a hard call too. I guess it depends on what you're looking for, because they're both very fitting for the characters they're portraying on screen. Batman Adam West has his line delivery, though, with a little bit more double meaning most of the time, or a little bit more condescending than Kirk, who Kirk was more confident.
Aggressive.
He was aggressive and confident, and Batman was snarky
and had better lip gloss.
And he did have better lip gloss. This is true. What about you, Jason, for your answer to your own question? Which one do you think?
Well, no, I actually did want to put it to the group because I am. This is probably the first entire thing that I've seen,
Sure,
Adam West do. So because I wasn't a fan or maybe I saw some episodes when I was a kid, but I've seen a lot more Kirk, William Shatner than I have Adam West. So I don't know if I'm the best judge.
Oh, okay.
but I was going to say that the correct answer is both.
The correct answer is both. Yes, you're right. In their own ways, it's both. So, Dawn, did you have maybe a question or something we haven't touched on that you maybe want to ask the group?
No, I don't think so. I think that we've hit on pretty much all of the real highlights of the things that I had written down.
I mean, as we said, and as Jason, who I am 4 pages of notes, I feel bad we haven't talked longer about it, but I think you're wrapping up here soon. But Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this film. Cole, how about you? Any question or topic we maybe haven't touched that you wanted to ask?
No, honestly, we really went through all the quotes and all my questions. I mean, I brought one question which we kind of touched on, but I was, legitimately curious just in terms of the satirical nature of the movie, or at least the perceived satirical nature. I was just kind of curious. I mean, do you guys think all of these political jabs and all of these overemphasized gags were meant to be comedic? I mean, do you think that maybe some of them are just ridiculous in terms of the passage of time?
Oh, you mean if maybe they were meant to be a little more serious when the time
Yeah,
they came
yeah.
out
No,
versus...
I just had that. I had that genuine question. Maybe it's just the element to where they do a level of the show for kids, and then the jokes and all the political stuff are meant to make their parents laugh while they sit there and watch it. But I had that thought, sitting next to a 9-year-old, and he's somewhat politically aware, just because it's hard not to be nowadays. And he was ingesting some of the stuff, some of the political stuff, not all of it.
Sure.
But some of it. So I was just curious if you guys thought, all of it was meant to just, kind of be humorous and kind of like, haha. Or if, for instance, that last scene with the world leaders unable to even realize that they've been kidnapped was meant to make you think, or both. Both, I guess.
That's a good question. Jason, what do you think? Do you think it was meant to hit more serious, or do you think maybe they were covering up a serious topic with humor?
I think it was. I think that was all meant to be there, and that those. I don't know if. I think the way we're seeing it now, I think people back then kind of saw it the same way, and we're getting the same things out of it. I don't know.
Dawn, how about you?
Like Jason, it's really hard to say 51 years later.
Right.
What exactly was intended, because it was a more, for television was more innocent at the time than it is now. We are darker and more gritty now with everything. It is the age of oversaturation of communication and information. So it's really hard to tell, but given the history of comic books, cartoons, and such on television, there is a lot of history of a message being sent, whether it's comedically or not. It's entirely possible that it was intended to send a message that the political leaders of the world are too busy arguing and trying to work out the big problems that they're not paying attention to the rest of the world around them. And that maybe our world leaders aren't as smart as what we're relying on them to be. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a message, but it's really hard to say.
Yeah. And I think there is maybe meant to be a message, but at the same time, I think they were still using the humor maybe to get their own a message across a bit, or either that or to lighten up maybe the subject matter just a little bit, because we're talking in '66, so the the real world outside of the Batman world was getting in turmoil. So maybe it was meant just to, as the title cards open up, it's meant to be escapism, and meant to be, just lovers of over the top, crazy, weird things to help you escape the craziness that's going on in the real world.
Word. Yeah.
And I'm going to say this, for a film that's 51 years old, I still think personally this holds up really well for its age. I totally, it didn't really dawn on me till I started thinking about going, holy crap, this film's like 51 years old, but they put it in such a surreal world that I think it still holds up. Cole, did you think it still held up? I mean, 51 years later?
I really did, man. I really did. I've only seen it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, for me, it was a pleasure to watch. I was so fortunate that Netflix had it. You know, I was able to sit there and watch it. My family hated it, and that was fine with me. That was really fine with me because I mean, Batman and Robin is their favorite. So we'll talk about that some other time. But
Sure.
for me, it was like I really got into this. I thought it's difficult for me because I can't really say it's this big serious movie that has this huge emotional impact because that kind of pigeonholes me. But aside from the intentional comedy, which I think is there, I do think there are everything gets cheesy eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I made my first movie came out in 2005. I can't even look at it anymore. But I wanted to do something special. I wanted to make people think, and I do think there are themes in not only this Batman movie, but any great Batman movie.
Yeah.
And there are a few that really kind of get to you, make you think about the nature of the world, the nature of vigilantism, which this film does deal with in its own corny way, and just the nature of villains and I just all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The last scene packed a wallop for me. I mean, I thought that was darkly humorous and very effective. For a little cornball movie where a guy has to fight a shark off his pantyhose, I thought that stuff was ballsy and gutsy and cool. And Cesar Romero, of course, and let me look at my notes. The other actors, the Riddler, Frank Gershon,
Yeah.
just an amazing cast. Yeah, I love the film. I think it holds up. I would recommend it to anybody that's not my fiance and our 9-year-old son.
Yeah, it holds up, and it impresses me the production of this film for a 66. Well, this is a movie, but even the TV show was in a similar high production. And to have a film like this or a TV show like this is just crazy for that time because of the huge sets and everything that they had built with this. Dawn, would you say that this film still holds up 51 years later?
I really do. And I recently had a conversation with my younger son, who's actually a big Batman fan, and we were discussing. Not to trigger warning, Mark. Trigger warning. We were discussing Batman v Superman.
Sure.
Yeah. And he had said that he really didn't like that movie, and I asked him what was it about, and he said he really just didn't like the style in the way it was shot. So I asked him if he liked Sucker Punch, which his brother had purchased for him for his birthday one year. He said no, he really didn't like that either. And I said, okay, well, that's important to know. You don't like that style. So I think stylistically, if you're a fan of that very satirical, very light, but edgy humor, I definitely think that this holds up.
Mm-hmm.
If that is your style,
right?
I mean, but if you like your Batman dark and gritty and growly, you probably aren't going to be a fan of this.
Right. How about you, Jason? Do you think it's held up 50? I mean, it's hard to think that this film was 51 years old.
Yeah, well, I think Dawn made some, and Cole made some really good comments, and I think that it is, if you look at it maybe more as a comedy and not, or satire or whatever, and less like a Batman movie, I think that helps. Kind of if you're going into it with the certain frame of mind. It's not going to be for everybody. It probably wouldn't be for my wife or my kids. They probably wouldn't enjoy it either. But I think that for the right person or the right people, I think it's extremely entertaining. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, and for me, I think it holds up if you don't mind the camp and the cheese and you don't take it as I'll say that, yeah, you take it as a comedy, as a satirical comedy of Batman. I think you'll enjoy it a lot more than if you're looking for a serious Batman. I mean, this film is not meant to be that Batman at all. When you get jokes like Adam West, where they're trying to, the villains are trying to kill Batman throughout this film, and there's continuously near misses, and there's always an excuse, even to the point of, yes, we were lucky that those porpoises felt the need to sacrifice themselves to save us from the torpedoes. I'm just like, what?
You don't think they might have been trying to be dead serious, though?
Oh, I think they were making a statement about porpoises used in the military, in all honesty. But at the same,
Absolutely.
they were, because that was a topic back then. But at the same time, it's just hilarious to see, every time they're starting to die, they're going to die soon. Oh, Batman, yeah, luckily I was shielded by the explosion by these, firm steel girders that just happened to be on the dock that I could hide behind. Or, the porpoise one got me, though. I'm just like, wait, what?
That was one of the quotes I had written down. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
What's the exact quote? What's the exact quote, Dawn? If you got
I have to pull my notebook.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What? No, that's okay. Here we go. The nobility of that almost human porpoise.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Is that really what he said?
Yes.
That is really what he said.
Oh my God.
Almost human porpoise. And I rolled laughing. I'm just like, oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
That's Burt Ward, right? Those lines were muffled.
No, that was Batman.
That was Batman?
That was Adam West.
Yeah,
wow.
That was Adam West.
Wow.
That was
That's shocking.
Adam West. Yeah, it was. So you get stuff like this, folks. We'll wrap it up here, but if you're looking for kind of a wild, just tongue-in-cheek comedy with some social commentary mixed in, and just some great performances by everyone involved, especially those playing the villains, but everybody in here, you can tell there's just such a great spirit and energy about this film, and a sincerity that they're being sincere about being comical and being campy in this, and it comes across on screen. And I really think this film is just a lot of fun, and it should be watched. If nothing else, to watch the dramatic handoff right in the beginning of this film of Robin, who could easily walk all the way down the bat ladder to hand Batman the bat repellent, shark repellent. But no, he's an acrobat. To remind you, he puts his legs underneath one of the bars on the ladder and then leans backwards and hands Batman the spray that way, just to remind you that he was.
Well, it's fan service, but it's not done so smoothly.
Oh, and I know we're going a little late tonight, but one of the other things I wanted to touch, we didn't touch on it, and I hope everyone doesn't mind. I know we're going to wrap it up, but there's one thing I wanted to touch real quick, was what surprised me really, even though you didn't get a lot of it, the choreography of the action scenes in this film. It is actually impressive if you watch how everything plays out. Jason, since this was your first viewing, what did you think, real quick, of the choreography of these action scenes that you get when you did get the fights?
Well, I did actually. Now that you mention it, I did think a few times. It's like, wow, there's a lot going on in the frame. There's a lot, and it's all, you know what I mean. Okay, there's punches that obviously whiff and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, but yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of people, and they all gotta, hit their marks and get to the right spot. And so, yeah, I thought it was kind of impressive. But in one of those scenes, the one where they're fighting Bruce Wayne, and one of the henchmen gets into the combination trap where he hits the Jack in the Box and then goes flying out the window to hit the exploding octopus. I thought that was hilarious, but I want to call that out specifically for Derek Carey because he loves movies with crappy fake dummies in them. So
Yes.
Derek, if you haven't seen this movie, you have to watch it for the crappy dummy.
Yes, the crappy dummy through the window.
He'll probably listen too. So.
I'm sure he's seen it, but
Yeah, I'm sure he is too. Cole, real quick with the choreography of the fight scenes, does it surprise you? It's like Jason says, there's actually a lot of people doing a lot of things within frame.
Oh my, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with Jason. He hit it right on the head. I mentioned earlier, I thought the one thing the movie needed, and it's ridiculous to criticize this movie at all, but it could have used a little fist fight right up front. Because that's what the young men were, the bam, pow, and the cool. I mean, people love that. And as Dawn mentioned, they saved it to the end for a reason, which I hadn't thought about. She's 100% correct because she understands this material better than I do. I've seen the movie 3 times, maybe. But, there are fight scenes before the last 15 minutes. It's just, he's not dressed up as Batman. And that's always, it always bugs us. Oh, damn it. It's the same character, but there's no cape, and there's so it's not the same thing, and they didn't put the cool little effects in,
Yeah.
But I do think, in particular, that last what is it? Dawn said 15 minutes seemed like something like that, man. That goes on and on and on. There's like 5 minutes where Batman has the cat in his arm.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Mark, but people may think, yeah, right, that's funny. But actually, Mark wasn't joking. It's a live cat. We looked at it because my fiance is an animal lover. It's a live cat. And Adam West is like taking down 4 people, 5 people every 5 seconds in this poor fucking cat. And then he just tosses it. Oh, there you go, pussy. Have fun.
But what's really great about that fight scene is Catwoman just goes around, waits till everybody beats the crap out of one another, and then she just pushes them overboard. I love that. She doesn't, she doesn't have to fight that much at all. She just goes, "Oh, push." She's like, "You guys are punching each other. I just gonna push you overboard." I love that. And Dawn, did you? Even though we didn't get a lot of fight scenes, choreography. I mean, you watched the TV show as well. It's impressive for something like this.
It really is. It really took a lot of cooperation among them. And just to add to what Cole said, there was the choreography was hugely different when Adam West was fighting as Bruce Wayne versus as Batman. And I understand it was intentional and integral to the story, but I found it particularly notable that when Bruce Wayne was Bruce Wayne, the kidnapped millionaire, and fighting the
villain, the henchman,
the villains, he was running into walls and just clumsy and awful until like the very end where he was able to finally escape. Whereas in the last 15 minutes when he was Batman and he was just War Machine.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. Of course, Bruce Wayne probably didn't mind it too much because he did get pushed into Kitka's cleavage. But
yeah, he did.
I got that going. Oh, there's another thing that I didn't catch when I first watched this. One of the henchmen come in when they tie him back up. They push him down, and his face goes full right into her chest. I'm like, oh man, that had to be awkward. But so check this out, folks. I know we talked a little long, but there's so much with this movie, and you can tell we really enjoyed it. I'm glad to hear Jason enjoyed it with his first viewing, and hearing Cole liked it, and hearing Dawn's love of this film, and me too. This is the Batman I first had when I was a kid before Burton's Batman came along, and there is a special place in my heart. It's just fun. It is meant to be campy, though. Please do not think that they meant that they were trying to make a serious Batman movie at all. They were trying to do a campy, fun film for the family, and I think they succeeded quite a bit. So With that, we will wrap it up tonight. This is the part where we ask folks to let you know where you can find them when they're not here. We're going to start with Cole. Cole, where can they find you when you're not here, and what you working on?
Thanks for asking, Mark. You can find me at Shadows and Lovers Productions on Facebook currently. Also, Horror Roar on Facebook, where I experiment with some digital art and just horror brain fodder for those who like your entertainment bloody. Got 2 movies on the horizon. One we're shooting right now. It's called Rise. Nice satanic thriller for you maniacs out there. Also, the last great horror movie, which has been in the can for a few months, working on a digital release despite a massive computer crash. Tonight with Don and Jason and Mark, all talented people, and great to hear Jason's voice. I don't know if we've ever met, but thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Cool. And Dawn, where can we find you at?
You can find me in theaudience.net. And gentlemen, don't forget when you exit the spoiler room to flourish your cape and give a little hop.
And Jason, you got anything on the horizon that you want to plug at all?
Well, every once in a while I'm here, so that's cool.
Which we appreciate greatly. Maybe I'll have an update sometime soon. Okay,
but that's about it for now.
Well, good dear. Well, we're always happy to have you in the spoiler room. I appreciate every single one of you, as always. Your time you take out to sit here and discuss movies with us, and you can find links to all their stuff on specialmarkproductions.com, your one-stop shop for all your movie man needs, where you can find the spoiler room archive. You can find my links to my stuff, and I'm working on a couple of other things too, rolling around in my head that may be coming out soon, that you want to stay tuned for. And you definitely want to stay tuned for June, because we are kicking off Bat Month. Yes, I've had the decision that we are going to cover Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. Each week you will get a different film where we're going to discuss those. So stay tuned, folks. It's going to be a wild ride, especially considering there's a couple films in there that I haven't watched since pretty much the first time they came out. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. And until next time, folks, you can catch us on the same bat time and the same bat channel right here in the spoiler room. Say good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Hey.
Batman.